here's what happens. Joab, son of Zeruiah, knew that the king's heart longed for Absalom. So Joab sent someone to Tekoa and had a wise woman brought from there. He said to her, "Pretend you are in mourning, dress in mourning clothes, and don't use any cosmetic lotions. Act like a woman who has spent many days grieving for the dead. Then go to the king and speak these words to him." And Joab put all the words in her mouth. Let's stop there. Joab sends somebody to confront David again so that he will return his son because he's not doing something right. His sins, in the case with Bathsheba, had a big result, okay? It brought calamity on his whole entire house. You think he would learn, but he didn't. We're going to watch this clip. What Kramer does brings results too. It impacts not just him, but it impacts the other party.
Oh, Mr. Kramer.
Yes.
Thanks for coming.
So, what did you want to see me about?
Well, Mr. Kramer, to get right to it, we're having a bit of a problem with Barry.
Barry?
The chimpanzee.
Oh, well, what's the problem?
Well, he's not functioning the way he normally does. He seems depressed. He's lost his appetite. He's even curtailed his autoerotic activities. And we think this is directly related to the altercation he had with you the other day.
So what do you want me to do?
Well, frankly, we'd like you to apologize.
Yeah, well, he started it.
Mr. Kramer, he's an innocent primate.
So am I. I mean, what about my feelings? Don't my feelings count for anything? Oh, only the poor monkey's important. Everything has to be done for the monkey.
They asked him to apologize because Kramer's actions made the monkey depressed. Okay? The monkey couldn't eat. The monkey couldn't sleep. The monkey was having difficulties. But Kramer was having difficulties too because it couldn't go away. Couldn't get dealt with. And he was avoiding it. Okay, but it was causing more issues. David did the same thing with Bathsheba. He didn't handle it, and it became a gigantic issue that exploded. And we'll see again, David doesn't handle it the best. This old woman begins talking to him, and this is what she says. She goes to him and she says, "I am indeed a widow. My husband is dead. I, your servant, had 2 sons. They got into a fight with each other in the field, and no one was there to separate them. One struck the other and killed him. Now the whole clan has risen up against your servant," they say. "Hand over the one who struck his brother down so that we may put him to death for the life of his brother whom he killed. Then we will get rid of the heir as well. They would put out the only burning coal I have left, leaving my husband neither name nor descendant on the face of the earth." The king said to the woman, "Go home and I will issue an order on your behalf." But the woman from Tekoa said to him, "My lord the king, let the blame rest on me and on my father's family, and let the king and his throne be without guilt." The king replied, "If anyone says anything to you, bring him to me, and he will not bother you again." She said, "Then let the king invoke the Lord his God to prevent the avenger of blood from adding to the destruction, so that my son will not be destroyed. As surely as the Lord lives," he said, "not one hair of your son's head will fall to the ground." Then the woman said, "Let your servant speak a word to my lord the king." "Speak," he replied. The woman said, "Why then have you devised a thing like this against the people of God? When the king says this, does he not convict himself? For the king has not brought back his banished son. Like water spilled on the ground, which cannot be recovered, so he must die. But God does not take away life. Instead, he devises ways so that a banished person may not remain estranged from him. And now I have come to say this to my lord the king, because the people have made me afraid. Your servant thought, I will speak to the king. Perhaps he will do what his servant asks. Perhaps the king will agree to deliver his servant from the hand of the man who is trying to cut off both me and my son from the inheritance God gave us. Now your servant says, may the word of my lord and the king bring me rest. For my lord and king is like an angel of God in discerning good and evil. May the Lord your God be with you." Then the king said to the woman, "Do not keep from me the answer to what I'm going to ask you." "Let the lord the king speak," the woman said. The king asked, "Isn't the hand of Joab with you in all this?" The woman answered, "As surely as you live, my lord and king, no one can turn to the right or the left from anything my lord the king says. Yes, it was your servant Joab who has instructed me." What happens is, David ends up doing this. Joab then falls with his face to the ground to pay him honor and bless the king. And it says, "Today your servant knows that he has found favor in your eyes." He did what was right. He tried to help David come to terms with his issue. So he goes to Geshur and he brought Absalom back to Jerusalem in verse 23. But the king said, "He must go to his own house. He must not see my face." So Absalom went to his own house and he did not see the face of the king. In all Israel there was not a man so highly praised for his handsome appearance as Absalom. From the top of his head to the sole of his foot there was no blemish in him. Whenever he cut the hair of his head, he used to cut his hair from time to time. When it would become too heavy for him, he would weigh it, and its weight was 200 shekels. It's a lot of hair by the royal standard. 3 sons and 3 daughters were born to him, and the daughter's name was Tamar, and she became a beautiful woman. He lived for 2 years in Jerusalem without seeing his father's face. David has a habit of waiting 2 years before he handles things. So Absalom sent for Joab in order to send him to the king. But Joab refused, so he sent a second time, and he refused. Then he said to his servants, "Look, Joab's field is next to mine. He is barely there. Go and set it on fire." So Absalom's servant set the field on fire. Then Joab did go to Absalom's house, and he said to him, "Why have your servant set my field on fire?" Absalom said to Joab, "Look, I sent word to you, and you said, 'Come here, so I can send you to the king to ask, why have I come from Geshur? It would be better for me if I were still there. Now then, I want to see the king's face, and if I am guilty of anything, let him put me to death." So Joab went to the king and told him this. Then the king summoned Absalom, and he came in and bowed down with his face to the ground before the king. And the king kissed Absalom. In the course of time, Absalom provided himself with a chariot and horses. He started to get frustrated with the king. And because David took the actions that he took, and he sort of apologized when he brought him back from Geshur, but he didn't really.
Anyway, I just want to say that I'm sorry. I lost my temper, and I probably shouldn't have. I took it out on you, and look, if I've caused you any problems as a result of my behavior, well then, I'm sorry. I apologize. Even though you know, Barry, between me and you, we both know that you started it. I mean, who's kidding who? But they tell me that you're very upset, and God forbid I should disturb the very important monkey. I'm just hoping we can put this behind us. Let's just move on with our lives, okay? So no hard feelings?
What happened? Was that a real apology? No. It was half an apology. But then he jabbed him again. He jabbed him again. And that's what David did to Absalom. That's what David did to Uriah. He just, let's make this right. Let's try to make this right. He ends up killing him. With Absalom, he keeps his son in despair. And what happens is, Absalom eventually turns against him. But you see, Absalom didn't turn against him just because he hates his father. It was due to some of the actions that David had taken. He came with this apology, and then he said, you know, I forgive you, but I really don't. Just don't see my face. And I want to ask you, how many times do we apologize in this fashion?